Here is something that doesn't make sense at first. About 25,000 condo units are sitting empty right now in the Greater Toronto area. Just sitting there, unsold, unoccupied, and not being lived in. And this is happening at the same time as one of the worst housing crises Canada has ever seen. People are struggling to afford homes, rents are sky high, and somehow thousands of brand new condos are just vacant. In this video, we are going to break down what's actually going on here, how we got to this point, whom it's affecting, and what it could mean for the future of the housing market in Toronto and beyond. And if you're a buyer thinking about getting in, or a seller trying to figure out what to do next, I've got some advice for you at the end that you're going to want to hear. Let's get into it. Now, you would think that with Canada in the housing crisis, any new unit that gets built would be grabbed up immediately, right? But that's not what's happening. While it might seem weird that there could be a flooding of condos in the midst of the national housing crisis, it is happening. It is the highest number of unsold completed units in Toronto since the first quarter of 1993, so over 30 years ago. The real estate analysts at Urbanation predict that inventory will keep rising in 2025, with 2,400 more unsold units expected by year-end. April was rough. Condo sales in the GTA dropped 30% year over year, and the average sale price fell to around $678,000, which is almost 7% lower than last year and down over 16% from the 2022 peak. That's a pretty steep fall in a short amount of time. And according to economists at TD Bank, this might just be the beginning. They are predicting prices in the GTA condo resale market could fall another 10% this year. Some areas will get hit harder than others, of course, but if you're holding onto a unit hoping for a rebound, that rebound might be a long way off. So how did we get to a place where thousands of condos are sitting empty in the middle of the housing crisis? There are two major forces at play here, and once you see what's really driving this, it will change the way you think about Toronto real estate completely. One has to do with what being built, the other whom it's being built for, and neither is what most people assume. We're going to get into both in just a second. Just a moment, if you're finding this helpful, do me a favor and please click this like button and subscribe. It really helps, so thank you. Now, let's break it down. Alright, let's start with the first major reason behind all these empty condos. There is just way too much supply. Condos that used to sell in days are now sitting for weeks. We've got a 7-month inventory backlog, the most we've seen in 20 years, and buyers just are not coming back to the market. And here is the part most people don't realize. All of this supply we're seeing today is actually a delay effect. It's a result of those boom years when buyers were pre-purchasing like crazy. But now that demand's vanished and we're stuck with this excessive supply. And that leads up right into reason number 2, and it's a big one. The biggest problem really is that the buyers just are not there anymore. The people who were supposed to step in, first-time buyers, young professionals, new families, are still on the sidelines. They're finding prices out of reach even with the recent drops. And on the top of that, a lot of what's available just doesn't meet their needs. Because see, most of these condos were built for investors, not for real people to live in. They're often tiny, 650 square feet shoeboxes in the sky, so not ideal for someone settling down and raising a family. Federal policymakers are capping immigration, which means population growth is slowing and that directly affects demand. Combine that with the record number of purpose-built rentals hitting the market, and the result is this: rents in many cities are starting to come down for the first time in years. Rents are softening. The average one-bedroom rent in Toronto fell 6% year over year. That's a relief for renters, but rough for investors. Thousands of them are looking at steep losses, especially those who bought pre-construction at peak and now watching their units drop in value before they even close. And even for buyers who are interested, there is a lot of hesitation. Consumer confidence is shaky, people are worried about their jobs, and big purchases are getting put on hold. So what happens when there is tons of supply but demand keeps fading? Prices soften, listings pile up, and sellers have to adjust their expectations fast. If you're a seller and you don't have something that's amazing, it's tricky and you've got to be realistic. And that's exactly what we are seeing. So what can you actually do? This is my advice for condo sellers right now. You need to differentiate. That starts with how your listings show up online. Most buyers are deciding whether or not to click on your place within seconds. So professional photos, a clean layout, and accurate detailed descriptions are a must. If your unit has a functional layout, good natural light, or anything that separates it from the typical 500 square foot box, highlight that, make it obvious. And price it strategically, not sentimentally. What you paid 2 or 3 years ago doesn't matter to today's buyers. They're comparing your place to similar listings, many of which are cheaper or simply more appealing. One of my sellers lost out on a good price last year because they hesitated. Staging also makes a huge difference. In this market, people are not imagining the potential. They want to see it. And if your unit is sitting and getting no traction, don't wait 3 months to adjust your price. The longer a listing sits stale, the more buyers assuming something's wrong with it. Price reduction done late often just confirm those fears. The goal is not just to list your property, it's to sell it in this market. And that requires adapting, not just hoping. On the other hand, if you're a buyer in this market, especially if you have been waiting on the sidelines, this may actually be the window you've been hoping for. We are in a very rare moment right now where buyers have leverage. There is more inventory than we have seen in years. Sellers are adjusting their expectations and bidding wars have cooled off dramatically in most areas. That doesn't mean you should rush in blindly, but it does mean you've got time to be strategic. First, focus on value, not just price. A lot of the lower price units on the market are there for a reason. Poor layouts, tiny square footage, or awkward locations. The goal is not just to buy cheap, it's to buy smart. Look for a livable layouts, natural light, and buildings with solid management and low maintenance fees. Also, don't be afraid to negotiate. Sellers are a lot more flexible now than they were a year or 2 ago. If a unit has been sitting on the market for weeks, you've got room to ask for price reductions, close incentives, or even repairs or updates as part of the deal. And remember, with interest rates where they are, your monthly payment still matters more than the sticker price. So talk to your mortgage broker, run the numbers, and make sure the payment fits your life, not just the market trend. Lastly, avoid the fear of missing out. You don't need to time the exact bottom of the market to get the good deal. You just need to find the right fit at the right price for you. Be patient, be informed, and use the slowdown to your advantage. Got questions about buying or selling? Reach out anytime. And if there is a topic you want me to cover next, please share it in the comments. I read them all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.